the most important things about a book is the book summary. That's the thing that grabs us in. The book summary, the advertisement, and so now we have purchased the book. But have you ever purchased a book based on a summary that you read, based on information and advertisements online, and then you are disappointed? You have the vibes of Tyra Banks when she said, we were rooting for you. We're all rooting for you. Well, I had that situation, and I'm going to tell you about it in just a moment. I'm Educator Barnes. I am a former English teacher, former literacy coach, former librarian, and I love to read. But most importantly, I love to tell you about the books I read in hopes that I will encourage you to also be a reader. I believe that we all should read, and we should be a reader for life, and that when we die, we should have a stack of books that we were about to read. That's how I roll. So let's get into it. The book that I just read that falls into this trashy category is I Won't Shut Up, Finding Your Voice When the World Tries to Silence You by Henny. So let's talk about the book. This is a nifty cover. I like the black fist up, talking about won't shut up because I'm definitely a person. When I got something to say, you're going to know about it. And I am not afraid to tell you how I feel. I also like the fact that the author is a Black female. She also said that she is a Christian. I'm also a Christian. So that was pretty cool. I didn't know much about Henny before I saw this book. I actually pre-ordered this book even before it was available to be purchased. And I rarely do that. But all the things and all the talk I saw about this book, I'm like, this is a book for me. This is going to be a book that's going to talk about the difficulties in talking about certain topics, diversity, equity, inclusion, all of those different things that right now has become so controversial for some people. So I'm like, this book will be the book for me. The book is divided into 3 acts. The first act, that was the best act of the book. You really get background about her, some of her experience. She sets the foundation for the books. I could really empathize with her when she was sharing information about being a kid who asked questions of adults, and how it felt when essentially you are told to stay in a child's place. Children are meant to be seen and not heard, and how dare you question an adult. And I was always that kid that if something was right, I don't care what age you are. You're doing something out of line, and I feel that I have a right to ask you about it. So the first part of the book, I'm like, yeah, girl. And then the book continued on, and she even said at the beginning of the book, this is not an autobiography. It's not a memoir. I'm a practicing Christian, but I'm not trying to convert you to Christianity. Parts of the book may take places in some of these places that I've been at because she, worked at different churches. And as the book went on, I was just like, what am I getting out of this book? There was just a lot of examples about her experience at these different churches. Essentially, even herself in the book said, I know, you're probably saying, I'm still here, or I went back. And I'm like, yeah, girl. All I'm seeing is like an endurance of punishment. Like, what was I supposed to take from this? And so even though I really wanted to like this book, it just fell flat for me. Now, I don't regret reading the book because I never regret reading books, because when it comes to some of the work that I do, I want to find books that talks about how do you lift up your voice. How do you navigate certain spaces when people are not authentically doing the work? Unfortunately, I felt that this book didn't give enough tangibles and takeaways about what you should actually do. And it was more of a story of telling us about her experience, which I haven't read many books where it comes from like the Black female Christian experience. So I do appreciate that it was a different narrative because Black folks are not a monolith. So I appreciated that. For that aspect, if that is what I thought the book was just going to be about, then I would give this book a different rating. But because I thought I was going to get more from this book than what I got to give this book a 2.5 out of 5. It's probably one of the lowest ratings I've assigned to a book. And sometimes people say, I feel like you always give books high rating. I'm like, oh, I just now started doing these videos. But if you could ask some of my middle school students, because outside of my classroom door when I was a middle school English teacher, I would take little pictures of the books I was reading. And I would start at the beginning of the school year and it goes all the way to the end of the school year. And I would say things like, ask me about those books. So kids would ask me about the books that I said I just read, because I would have Mrs. Barnes is reading, and then next to it, I would have all the books I had read. And those students can tell you that Mrs. Barnes sometimes was giving some low. It was 1 out of 5, baby, because I got to the end, because I told y'all we not quitters when it comes to books. We don't finish these books. But that particular book was a 1 out of 5. So you guys don't know about those because that was back before, I was really, I guess, more active on social media. But despite that, I do think that this book is for someone because as a former librarian, just because a book isn't for me is not a book that should just disappear. And I have to say that because there's some fools out there still banning books. It may not be for me, but it may be for you. So if you're looking for a book that really comes from a Black female Christian perspective, where you're learning about someone's personal journey, doing the work of diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, access, equity, this book is for you. This book wasn't for me, but it may be for you. So check out my next video because I am still behind these videos. I probably have like 4 other books that I've already read that I haven't done a video for. So those are coming soon.